If you've seen my Amazon haul, you will know that I picked up these colouring pencils to see if they would be a good dupe against my Prismacolors. So in today's video, I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to test these out alongside my Prismacolors. If you haven't seen my latest Amazon haul, I will link it in the description box below so you can go and check that one out after you've watched this one. So firstly, we'll take a look at the colouring pencils themselves. If you compare the two looks of the colouring pencils, I do feel like there are a few similarities to them. So with the Zenacolor, you do have a tin that has got a hinge on it, so when you open that up it reveals the first layer of those colouring pencils, and then I do find actually it's a lot easier to take those trays out than the Prismacolor because they have these two nice areas either side of the trays where your fingers can slot in really easily to pick out the colouring pencils, whereas on the Prismacolor I do find that slightly trickier because there's not so much to grip on. So I think personally I prefer the trays for the Zenacolor over the Prismacolor. Both pencils look very, very similar to each other. They have got the colour on the barrel itself indicating what colour the pencil might actually be. They also both have silver writing on the pencil with the branding, numbering of each colour and also the name of the colour. There is a little bit more detail on the Prismacolor than the Zenacolor pencil. However, for the price difference, I don't think that they are too dissimilar from one another. If you then look at how the pencils have been manufactured, they do look like they have been put together in a very similar way. It looks as though they have had a half barrel and then inserted the colour of the pencil and then glued those two half barrels together, and you can see the seam on the very end of the pencil. This indicates to me that they've been made in a very, very similar way. The barrels do look slightly off centre on both pencils. I'm going to swatch all of the Zenacolor pencils first, and I'm going to do this on one side of the piece of paper so that I can compare in a little while with my Prismacolors, because I want to get a true comparison to see how and if these colours are going to match up with my Prismacolors, because I think that's the most important factor when we come to comparing whether these colouring pencils are a good dupe to the Prismacolors. The colour pencils go down very nicely on the page. However, I did find that you have to build the colour up quite a lot in order to get a nice solid colour. I also found that there were quite a few colours that looked very, very similar to one another, especially within the pinks. There were quite a few that looked very, very similar to one another. I also found whilst I was swatching that the colour on the tin lid and the barrel didn't match up with the colour that I was actually swatching at all. The colour suggestion was completely out. It didn't match up whatsoever, so you do really need to make sure you have that swatch card ready. So I do have the Prismacolor 72 set, which I bought last year, I believe. I can't quite remember. I bought it on Amazon. I will link the video where I unbox it and talk about some of the pros and cons of buying on Amazon. And just like the Zenacolor, I will add in the colour of the pencil so you can see which ones I've matched up as best I can. So far, as I expected, the colours are going down a lot heavier than the Zenacolor. So it's covering a lot more of the paper and it's covering a lot quicker and a lot easier than those Zenacolors. I've tried to colour match these as best I can. As you can see, some of them just are not very good matches. So the Prismacolor is on the right and the Zenacolor is on the left. And some of them aren't too bad. However, they weren't the perfect match. In the Prismacolors, I just couldn't find accurate matches for these colours, and then, you know, a few of the pinks and things like that. So you do get a really good range of pinky tones within the Zenacolor. However, I just couldn't find very good matches for these ones. Now comparing them on the swatch test to the Prismacolors, it's not difficult to see that there were some real discrepancies between the colours. It was quite difficult to find a colour that matched perfectly, and because of the soft wax core of the Prismacolors, they did just melt into the page. They covered a lot more of that paper a lot quicker. So if you're looking for that sort of buttery feeling and being able to blend them, then the Prismacolors are probably going to be a better option. However, for the price, I still do maintain that the Zenacolor are going to be a very good option for a beginner. Both of these colouring sets so far have pros and cons with the colours that are available. Okay, so I'm going to test these colouring pencils further. I'm going to create a drawing with them, and for this I'm going to draw a gumball machine, which is heavily inspired by Wayne Thiebaud. I thought this would be the perfect thing to draw because it's so colourful, it's really vibrant, and I could use as many of these colours in the sets as I possibly could. So I'm going to set out to try and use every single one if I can. We're going to get started with the Zenacolor side first of all. And I'm going to try building and blending these colours up together to see how well they work together. So far we've just looked at them on the swatch test and we've seen how they work individually, but now it's time to see how well they blend and work together. I found that this took a little bit longer maybe to build up the colours with the Zenacolor than I would have hoped. However, maybe I'm thinking that these colouring pencils would actually be a really good dupe for my favourites, which are the Faber-Castells, because they are also an oil-based colouring pencil, whereas these ones felt slightly drier on the paper. I wouldn't say that they have that same sort of creamy consistency as the Prismacolor. So the Zenacolor pencils are actually an oil-based colouring pencil rather than a wax base like the Prismacolor. So they are going to feel slightly harder on the page. I found that the colouring pencils all worked really well together and I could create some nice blends. If you are enjoying today's video, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, because I do like to test out art products quite frequently over on my channel. Moving over onto the Prismacolor side, I found that I could create this side so much quicker. I was able to blend my colours really easily, a lot quicker than I could with the Zenacolor colouring pencils. It didn't take me too long to build up a good layer of the colouring pencil and then completely fill that page. I would say that the time spent trying to blend the Zenacolors was a lot longer than the time spent to build up those Prismacolors. They do just blend in very easily, they are very buttery, so they melt down into that paper a lot quicker. Whereas the Zenacolor pencils, they do feel a little bit drier on the page, they don't kind of blend in as easily, and you do feel like that sort of resistance on the paper. Whereas those Prismacolors, they just glide on, they melt in, and you can feel that textural difference between those and the Zenacolor pencils. I found the Prismacolors to be a lot more vibrant for the gumball drawing than the Zenacolor colouring pencils. I felt like they just filled that space a lot quicker and the colour payoff was just so much better than the Zenacolor pencils for this particular drawing. I do, however, think that sometimes the Prismacolors run the risk of becoming slightly muddy in areas because they do blend and pick up that colouring pencil a lot easier than the Zenacolor, so you do run the risk of drawing in some of the colour you might not necessarily want in a particular part of your drawing, so you do need to be careful on some of those blends because you might accidentally pick up some of the pigment from something neighbouring it and kind of like dragging that into the area that you're currently working on. So just bear that in mind when you're using your Prismacolor. The line between the two drawings is quite obvious in the colours because, like I said earlier, I couldn't find very good matches for the two sets of colouring pencils. So the line is very obvious, and I think that this just goes to show that maybe these aren't possibly the best colour matches out there for a dupe. But all in all, I'm really happy with how my drawing turned out. Let me know in the comments what you think of it, or what you would draw if you had these Zenacolor pencils or you were using Prismacolors. So my final thoughts for the Zenacolor colouring pencils, I'm not sure that they are a true dupe for the Prismacolors because they haven't got that really soft core like the Prismacolors. They don't blend in the same sort of way. However, look-wise, I think in the tin and also the colouring pencil itself, I think they do look like they could be a really good dupe. I had a comment saying that these could be a really good dupe for the Arteza ones, so maybe I will try them against those, and possibly also my Faber-Castells, because they are an oil-based pencil. They might be a similar sort of consistency to those. I think for under £20, you just can't go wrong really for this set of colouring pencils. If you're wanting to get into colouring pencils and you haven't got a lot of money to spend, but you want a large variety of colours, I think these ones are absolutely perfect. Whereas the Prismacolors are going to run sort of £50–60 for the same amount of colouring pencils, and I just don't think that is worth it for that set of colouring pencils. If you've used the Zenacolors and the Prismacolors, let me know in the comments what you think of them, or also if you know of a good dupe for Prismacolors, let me know, because I'd be really interested to try them out. If you have enjoyed today's video, give it a big thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.